I guess it goes back to my title, like just to build and live the life that I was meant to love.
If we can find a way of evolving and still using that passion and purpose, still using that, excitement to get up and do what you've got to do, even when it's hard work, then you're gonna build the life you love, right?
Everyone's got a job and everyone needs to work, but why let it be a miserable thing? Like, it's a massive part of your life.
Welcome to the Spotlight series, season 2 of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast, where each week we meet one of the brilliant co-authors and creatives behind Spotlight on Success, the PerformerPreneur book that's redefining what success looks like both in and out of the showbiz spotlight. I'm your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and in these special episodes we learn even more about the stories behind the sequins. Raw, honest, powerful reminders that the end of one act is only the beginning of another. So listen in as we chat challenges and triumphs and inspire you to shine in any spotlight you like. Welcome back to the Spotlight series of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. Today, I'm joined by Vicki Bye, accomplished costume designer, business owner, and former professional dancer. From being told she'd never make it in the industry to dancing professionally on cruise ships and founding her own global costume company, Vicki's story is a powerful reminder of what's possible when passion leads the way. Her chapter, titled Build the Life You Were Meant to Love, found in section 1 of the Spotlight series, Journeys to Success, is about rejection, resilience, and the magic that happens when you turn other people's doubt into the fuel that drives you. Now, as a successful entrepreneur, you will find her crafting dazzling stagewear and pushing creative limits behind the scenes. Vicki proves that when your work aligns with your passion, it never feels like work at all. Listeners, you've bought the book. You've been inspired by Vicki's chapter. Now let's meet her and hear firsthand how her life experiences have shaped her success. Please welcome the wonderful, creative Vicki into the spotlight. Hello, darling. How are you?
Yes, very well. Thank you, Nicole. And thanks for having me on your show again.
It's an absolute pleasure. And with this really brilliant twist, you are one of the fabulous co-authors of Spotlight on Success. And I'm so thrilled to have you here to tell your story in your own words. Again, just in a different format. So let's start today's pod with that exact question. Can you summarize in your own words your chapter and journey for any listener that hasn't actually bought or picked up the book yet?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's quite a big question. My chapter is about my business journey and about how some struggles in my university life, going into the industry, being a professional dancer, have basically grown my passion and learned loads of things along the way to then strive in business and your passion fueling your business and vice versa, drive, business, passion, all over. So to essentially build the life that you love.
I love that title. It's the essence of you. You're there. If you're watching on YouTube, listeners, you will see that Vicki has palm trees behind her. So build the life you love, having known you as a friend and a client and as a performer, and seeing you thriving and shining in Spain really makes that chapter title give me goosebumps, really. So explain to people where you are and how you got there.
So I am currently living in Spain. It's been some journey. I feel like it's thanks to my flexible work-life balance that I live here, but it's also a choice. It's a choice of, again, loving being out here in the sunshine and also having that connection back in the UK. I do still run my business in the UK, and I definitely still have my roots there. Being here is lovely, and I love it here. But it's been a journey of where my relationship has brought me, and I just feel like it's a real reflection of, again, like building that life that I was meant to love and thriving in every part of my life. Like, even if you do have, everyone's got a job and everyone needs to work, but why let it be a miserable thing? Like, it's a massive part of your life. You might as well be doing something that you love. And for me, especially, which I think is what performer-preneur is all about, for me, like coming out of the industry, of performing, and performing being your number one thing, I remember I reached like 30, and it becomes a bit of a daunting thing, like being a dancer and all these fresh 18-year-olds coming out of college, and then being like, I don't know how much longer I've got left of my performing career. And actually, I've managed to flip that. And now I've got it used to be a side hustle, which is my Royal Costumes. I also had an events and entertainment company, which is Royal Entertainment. But now my Royal Costumes is like the main event, and it's my main income. And it's like that passion that drives my life, and my life is also driven by my passion. So I hope that summarizes that.
It really does. It does. It is a journey, and there are different facets and different obstacles. And you speak of one of those obstacles right at the beginning of your chapter, the university lecturer that, placed a few doubts in your mind. You obviously overcame that. You obviously have, pushed past that and done all of the things and proved that person wrong. But at that point, is there something you would like to say to your younger self if you could, be in that room? Because I'm sure that process of self-belief was took longer than a moment. So what would you say, knowing what you know now in the future, what would you go back and say to her?
I think it's a really funny industry sometimes. I actually could speak to my friend Chloe a lot about this. Neither of us had like what I would call dance college training. I went to university and I got my dance degree, which was great at the time. It definitely wasn't a mainstream thing. It wasn't like what you were meant to be doing if you're a professional dancer. And it was kind of looked upon as, oh, have you had proper dance training and all that kind of stuff. But actually, I think what really should be focused on, and what I would like to say to like my younger self or anyone else that is kind of thinking about going into the industry, is it doesn't actually matter about your training or your choice of like where to train, if you're going to go to university, or whether you're going to go to college or somewhere smaller, because the value of what you learn on the job as a dancer, performer, whatever you end up going into, is so much more valuable than what they can teach you in a classroom, in a studio, whatever else. And I wish I had known that at the time, especially going into the industry, especially after my university lecturer told me that I would never be a professional. We had a careers meeting, and she basically tried to say, no, I don't think it's for you. What are you going to choose instead? And she was going down the route of dance teaching, dance journalism, that kind of thing. And I came out of it and I just thought, no, like, I don't need to do that. If I want something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go for it.
And I'm going to work hard to get there.
Indeed.
And that's another line in your chapter, that work ethic. Do you think that that has been part of this incredible success? And I know that the industry on a whole have got great work ethic. We work hard, we've got determination, we're in that studio. And you talk about that in the chapter. So for those people listening who are in the studio every day, who still go to the gym, who are really working hard with determination, do you think that's a superpower that will take them to the success that they want?
Most definitely. I always think whatever you put into anything, and I think this is something that I even speak to you about, Nicole, whatever you put in, even if you feel like it might be a waste of time, I always feel like you reap the rewards. You reap what you sow. And I've just learned it with everything, even my university training into job offers, how hard you work within a job, or how hard you work within your business, even if you feel like it's something that, I don't know, that you're wasting your time on. Actually, it isn't. Even if it's a learning thing for just you, and you're learning to do something for self-development or whatever it might be, it isn't ever like a waste of time or anything, because if somewhere along your journey, it will be necessary that you'll be like, oh, that's the reason why I done that.
Yeah. And you speak about hard work, when it's fueled by passion and purpose, doesn't feel like hard work at all. And I literally, believe the same thing. And with our industry and our background on our performance and our enthusiasm, if we can find a way of evolving and still using that passion and purpose, still using that, excitement to get up and do what you've got to do, even when it's hard work, then you're gonna build the life you love, right?
Absolutely. And I just think if you are so passionate about something, I get like that excitement to then that drives me to then do that bit of work. And okay, everyone's got their bits and pieces that they don't like doing. And I think we've spoken about it as well, about like eating the frog, like eating that, doing that task that you really don't want to do. We all have that with whatever part of business or work or whatever it is. But there's also the things that if you do that hard task will lead you on to the things that are the things that fuel you. And again, coming back to like that passion, and then you end up leading your day with something that you enjoy, and therefore getting work and business done, and it fueling your income stream.
I've got goosebumps because really is kind of the essence and ethos of performerpreneur, to find the joy, to evolve the purpose, to keep doing the things that you're passionate about, and just, making them work for the new version of you, the new spotlight, whatever that looks like. And we speak about often superpowers as performers, superpowers as entrepreneurs, superpowers as performerpreneurs. What do you think your superpowers are, Vicky? Because I think I've got a long list of what I think they are for you, but what do you think yours are?
Gosh, I don't know. I think the first one that came to mind for me is I'm thinking about like, I think it's quite a hard question to answer for yourself. Like, actually, I'd love to know what your list says. But I'm trying to think about like what other people say to me about me like running my business. I think for me, it's probably productivity, and what's the word? Like time managing my days and my schedules, and fitting as much, not fitting as much as I can into a day, but just making sure that what I am fitting into my day is productive. I think that that must be a big part, and being quite goals driven. So I make a vision board at the beginning of every year. I sometimes tweak it throughout the year to kind of align with where I want to be. And some of the goals that I set on it at the beginning of the year, they feel really unrealistic. And I look kind of throughout the year, mostly towards the end of the year, and see what I've done, what I haven't done, what I'm closer to. Some of them I haven't yet achieved, but I might be closer to a goal. And it's actually amazing. Most of the time, I've usually ticked off somewhere between maybe 70 to 90% of what's on that vision board. So I hope that that is seen as a bit of a superpower. Are you allowed to reveal what is on my list of yours?
I had driven, I had passionate, I had productive. So yeah, you are completely giving and gifting those values of yours to the world. Like I can see them, you're hardworking, you're passionate, you're driven, you have got goals and you get to them, and it's just beautiful to watch. For the listeners listening in, Vicky is a long-term client of PerformerPreneur, and a friend and a performer that's worked for Manic. So it's been wonderful to watch this journey play out for you. However, you are very good at working on your own, head down, getting on, and then you pop up and you tell us all of this wonderful stuff that you have achieved and done. And that is so inspiring as well. That you are, and you have got the ability to do things on your own, but you see the value in community. And that is, again, a special quality that I see in people, or look for in people. And in terms of that, I think you could have wrote a book on your own, because of these things. You're hardworking, driven, passionate. This could have been something you could have done, but you chose to come into the collaboration. I'm going to put words into your mouth. I don't know, for the community aspect, for the group enthusiasm. I don't know. Why would you, or did you, sorry, choose the collaboration over doing this kind of journey on your own?
Wow. Well, I think I know. I mean, it's very nice of you to say that I could write a book on my own, but that is just whoa, that's like massive. I don't think that I would be necessarily ready for that, even with the guidance that we've been given and your coaching. I just think it's this is like a step in some ways. If I ever was to consider writing a book on my own, isn't this just the little tip of the iceberg, I guess? And yeah, definitely community was part of my reasons of why. I just felt like it really aligned with me and my journey with performerpreneur. I am proud to say that I've been with performerpreneur right from the word go, because it's helped me so much. And I always talk about it and stuff. And so when you came to me with the option to write a chapter, I just aligned with it, and I just felt like perhaps I do have a story to tell, and perhaps I do want to tell the world about how I do business and stuff. I think when you go into business, you don't really know what you're doing sometimes, and I sometimes, even now, I still don't know what I'm really doing. But you have to learn, and all of a sudden you realize you do have that journey, and actually I do want to share that journey, as well as being surrounded by the lovely community that we've got within the book, and being inspired by others. And I've loved reading not even just the chapters that are the final thing, but it's been about the journey. And even when I look at what I have written, I don't even realize what I've got right in front of me. So yeah, I guess they're my come to mind reasons why.
Well, I'm thrilled that you said yes to the opportunity, because you and your chapter and the combination of stories is just so powerful. The premise behind the book idea on my side of things was because my story alone is not going to change the industry mindset of what happens next. But when we collectively come together and, show all these different versions of the same painting, like we've all come to a crossroads, we've all had to evolve, we've all been scared, we've all done it differently, but we've all ended in success, like really aligned, heart-led success. I just think, together we can create ripples, together we can make sure that the next generation don't feel at a standstill, like I certainly felt back in the early 2000s, and I'm sure that you felt those few years later. So I'm super proud that the people that held their hand up and said, yeah, I'm going to jump in this journey with you, Nicole, because it's incredible. And again, it just shows another aspect of where our performer tenacity, our ability to present and show up, where it can take us. And it can take everyone in such different directions. So keeping on that strain of writing your chapter, we all set out on the journey with Louisa, our book writing coach, and me kind of like leading the way with all the enthusiasm. We all set out onto the unknown, right? We didn't really know what was going to evolve or come about. I can hand on heart say what did evolve is incredible. And if you've read the book, then you'll agree. Please do go buy the book on Amazon. It's called Spotlight on Success, When Passion Meets Purpose. So now you're at the end of that book writing process. How do you kind of evaluate that? And has anything changed for you in terms of what you thought your success was, or what you thought you would say? Where did you end up, and how do you feel about your chapter now?
So when you came to me about writing a chapter, I never realized that my chapter would look the way that it does today. I've loved the journey of writing the chapter, and Louisa that's guided us through kind of pinpointing pinnacle points in our lives or business career and things like that. Um, it's been a real reflective, what do you call it, like task, and it's just been really nice to kind of look back on. I think it's definitely made me, and I think others would agree who are within the book, it just makes you realize how much you have done to be where you are today. Like all of those things, what if I didn't have that discussion with my university teacher? What if I didn't get offered that cruise job when I did? Or what if COVID didn't happen? Where would have that led me down the line? And I think, what am I trying to say? Like wherever life leads us, we never really know where life is going to lead us, but to just trust it, and just to always trust like that this is your journey and that it is meant for you, even if it is something really hard like COVID. There is always something to come out of it, which is positive, even though maybe it might not feel like it at the time. Even if it's that something that is not very nice has happened to you, it makes you more resilient. It makes you work harder. It makes you find what you are passionate about, makes you grow as a person. I've actually forgotten what your question is. I feel like I'm just rambling
No,
about
it's perfect.
whereof.
Because you've been enlightened to things that you probably already knew, but having that pause and reflection and writing that chapter, I wonder if you're now going to go into the next chapter, into the next years, just a little bit more reassured that it's all going to be all right. Because, on reflection, all of those milestones, all of those highs and those lows have led you to this life. You've molded those opportunities, you've molded those memories, those things, and you've created what you've created. So I read your chapter and I think, and I read all the chapters, and I think we all should be, and I want the readers to feel the same. We all should be exactly what you're saying. We should be empowered to believe that it all works out in the end, and just to keep moving forward, keep going through the process. We have got options, and we can do and change direction and do things, and it will all be okay if you keep believing, if you keep pushing, if you keep working hard. So that's me just kind of bringing together what you were just saying there. And I think you're absolutely right. And I'm glad that the experience writing the book has given you that, because I encourage people to review and reflect often, but I think this has been a really ginormous, because this was a whole life review and reflect, let's be honest. We started with the question of like, break down your life into monumental moments of highs and lows. And then obviously it's not all made the chapter in the book. So imagine sitting with that piece of paper and going, oh my goodness, there's been all of these things that have happened, and then picking them. But that whole process can be very cathartic and can be very daunting. But I think each chapter, yours certainly does prove that the process is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just saying it is a little bit of a reminder to myself. Like, I think wherever life leads us and down whatever avenue, I do just need to trust that it's leading me in the right direction, and also to trust myself to make the right decisions in life, which, not to trust myself, but make sure that I do make the decisions in life that only align with me. I will only do stuff if it aligns with me. And I guess trusting myself to make those decisions.
I think collectively, the group buzz in the group chat when we've been going through this process is exactly that. Like, we all feel a little bit stronger in ourselves. Like, we feel a bit more like, actually, we have got success. We have got power in what we choose to do. I mean, that's been really nice as a mentor and coach to watch everybody blossom even more so. If you were to hand this book to a particular person to read your chapter, who are you hoping it will help?
I'm hoping it will help people who are thinking about kind of maybe coming out of the industry, or even it not being your full-time thing anymore. If you are a full-time dancer or performer, whatever it might be, for it not to be like this daunting thing of, oh, I'm gonna go and have to find an office job or something that's really dull and mundane. And actually it hasn't got to be those things. And even if it's not, I feel like lots of people pivot into like going into roles within production companies. Actually, it hasn't even got to be that. Like, that you can find a role within your life, even if it's getting your own business, or perhaps working under somebody else and kind of evolving what your passions are. Because your passion, if you've been a performer, I just feel like your passion probably does lie with somewhere within performing, whether it be the actual training side or theatre or costumes like myself, or whatever it might be. And I think it's about not being scared. I think I'd like to hand it to somebody who is maybe a bit daunted by that whole prospect, because that's definitely where I've been once upon a time, to be like, do you know what? Don't be worried about it. Find what you're passionate about and hopefully go from there and thrive.
Brilliant. And those people will be reading this book, Vicki, and you will be making a difference to their next choices and their life. And you should be super proud of that. Everybody listening, you can find Vicky's business, you can find her socials, her website, you can find them in the book, go buy the book, but you can also find them in the show notes as well. So Vicky will drop all of those handles and everything that you are doing into the show notes so people can go and look you up, ask you questions, follow you, find you, buy costumes, have you design costumes for them, all of those wonderful things that you do. Um, as I said many a time, I'm privileged to know you. I'm privileged to go on this journey with you. I'm so excited that you said yes to this opportunity. And I know that your story will help to change the mindset and create ripples in our entertainment industry. Just finally, then, if I was to, oh gosh, I don't know, I've gone through all my questions. If I was to ask you to just kind of round it up in a sentence, what you would like to tell your future self, maybe, and that past self, just a couple of things. What do you want to tell your future self? I think we've spoke a lot about these things, but let's just round it up with what are you telling your future self? What are you telling yourself today? And what are you telling your past self?
I think to always lead my life with authenticity, to always be genuine. And I guess it goes back to my title, like just to build and live the life that I was meant to love, and to only do stuff if it aligns with me.
Brilliant. And you live in that now, and you did do that to get to where you are. So you should be super proud. And again, I just think it's a very powerful, exciting book. And I hope we'll get some lovely reviews. I hope you'll get some lovely follows and we'll get some lovely feedback. And what will be really exciting is to see this book, in the hands of those people that are going to make bold decisions because of our bold stepping up and leading the way. And that just brings me to a last question. That kind of once we've made the pivot, once we've evolved, once we've done the thing, how much do you hope people will start to shout about their achievements as well? Like it felt like I was really pulling teeth at one point to get people to believe that their story was a success story. And so I really want that to be another thing that comes out of the book. Like, I'm successful. I need to shout about this. We're all too quiet about our pivots. So I've gone off on another tangent, but I think you're a perfect person for this because you're very accessible, you're very authentic on social media. You have shown your story in the book. How much of a part of the success story do you think that needs to be?
Um, I think it's really hard to notice what you perhaps have done to be successful. If I'm honest, it's the book that's made me have that time of reflection and to review basically all the events that have perhaps happened in my life to be where I am today. And so it's probably not a normal task for people to do, to kind of realize. And we all have that imposter syndrome within us, because there's that kind of taboo that if you realize your success and you start talking about it, that you become a big-headed person and you think a lot of yourself, when actually it so shouldn't be. It should just be talking about what you are passionate about and singing your successes. And I guess for me, that has been quite hard, but that's why I've got people like you and the community that we have within PerformerPreneur, for like other people to kind of recognize it for you and think, actually, do you know what? That is okay for me to talk about. And actually, I absolutely should.
That's very interesting. And I think that's an important point because if people were to tap into your socials and things now after this episode, read your chat to see you on YouTube with me here, they would probably not even realize that you have that level of kind of insecurity of shouting about yourself, but you are pushing through and you're doing it on behalf of all of us. Now, I see these successes in every single person around me. I'm like, I just want to shout them at people like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like that's kind of how my vision is. I see the best in all of these people and these things. So I love that I've helped instill that in you because you're doing it brilliantly. And the more people that stand up and celebrate themselves, the more people are going to thrive behind us because we have to, shine a light, spotlight on success. Ladies and gents listening, please join me in saying a huge thank you to Vicki Bye, who has beautifully told her story from behind the page here today on the podcast. And it's just been brilliant to hear you and see you in the sunshine there as well. Thank you so much, Vicki, for joining us.
Thank you, Nicole.
Big love. There you have it. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Spotlight series, where stories shine and success gets redefined. If you loved what you heard, hit like, follow, or subscribe. And be sure to grab your copy of Spotlight on Success over on Amazon. And don't forget to tag us at PerformerPreneur across all socials. If you've been inspired today to step into a new spotlight, you can find a whole community ready to support you at performerpreneur.co.uk, as well as up-and-coming events and even more about each author. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and continue to shine.